This is Josh, Great at Customs, and we have our retro chair with modern flair. This time, I have mold flanges on, and we are going to be doing some waxing. So, what I got around the perimeter is heavy duty aluminum HVAC tape. So, wax accepts this very, very easily. It's a good release agent. I typically put that around the flanges of all my molds just to make sure things pop off like butter. You can see what happened here with the chair mold going into the flange. That's all tied together now, so there's no step, there's no hard lines. It's a nice radius, and that is past the cut point of our chair. So hopefully, when we lay this up, it's going to pop out swimmingly. You know what I mean? Got a nice fresh microfiber here, and what I'm going to be using for wax on this is from TR mold release compounds. This is their high temp paste wax. Uh, this is a Duratec surface primer. You can find that in some of my last lives and shorts and stuff like that for the product info. But this is a specific composite top coat meant for tooling. So when you wax it, we're going to put 5, 6 coats of wax on, buff them off after each stage, and we're going to have a mold that pops off very, very, very good. No PVA. I do not use PVA on my molds. And the reason why is PVA does not lay out like glass, and it has a very, very, very difficult release sometimes. So that's kind of something that I do that not a lot of other people do. No PVA. While we're at it, I did make a very small mold for a custom part. It's just a fancy block plate cover. You guys recognize what's that from? It's pretty indistinguishable. It's pretty easy to recognize if you know what it is. If you know what it's for. Um, yeah, I wanted to make a carbon fiber one, so made a little quick mold. Nothing crazy. 6 layers of fiberglass. Got a core material in there, and carbon fiber backed. So this is going to be a really nice plate. And I don't know how many of these I'm going to make. I'll probably only make 1 or 2. Depends if people think they're cool or not. I mean, it's offering no performance advantage over the stock one, but it's going to look cool, right? So without any further ado, I'm going to pop open this can of wax here. Let me get a screwdriver out. Typically with the wax stage, we're going to put 1 coat on, buff it off, put a 2nd coat on, buff it off, and then I will wait about half hour, 45 minutes between the coats after that. So you really want to get that wax to set and dry and cure really, really, really well. And the only way you can do that is, again, patience. You got to take your time and understand the big picture. And the big picture is making a part that's going to pop out of a mold really, really well. So my can of wax is getting down there. I'm going to try to get some fresh compound on there. And I'm going to basically just do circles. I do not let this sit very long, so it's going to be put it on, get it off fairly quick. And then we'll do that twice. Like I said, what happens after that is I will wait 30 to 45 minutes between coats so that wax actually has a time to set. I'm going to start very simply, just kind of in the middle. I don't need to go crazy on the aluminum here. That's going to release very, very, very good. So I'm not worried about that at all. And again, we're just working with small circles here. Make sure that you cover every little last square inch. And that's part of the reason why we're going to do 5 or 6 coats of this, is we want to make sure that the wax doesn't miss a spot. We want to make sure that it's all equally covered. One thing with this wax that you're going to notice here is the longer it sets, the harder and more difficult it is to wipe off. So if you can, try to get it off right away. If you do need to do like a left half and a right half, just to make sure that the wax doesn't dry too hard, by all means do that, because it's very, very, very difficult to get this off if you let it sit too long. You can kind of freshen it up a little bit by grabbing some new wax out of the can, but you do not want to let this stuff set for 5 or 10 minutes. It'll be a massive, massive pain in the butt to get off if you do that. I think I'm going to do the put half of it on, take half of it off, put half of it on, take half of it off. Let's see. That's not too bad. I'm all right still. Temperature is kind of crucial with this kind of stuff. The hotter it is, the faster it's going to do a hard set. So right now we've got about 65 degrees in the shop, so it's not super hot. That's going to keep it open just a little bit longer. I feel like the Karate Kid right now doing this. I always think, Mr. Miyagi, wax on, wax off. This is a fairly easy shape to do. It's nothing too crazy complicated. I am waxing a mold right now. Hello in the chat. This is going to be, or I'm waxing a pattern. I'm going to be making a mold of this. And in order to make the mold separate, I want to put a good coat of wax on it. So we're going to be doing 5 or 6 coats of wax. And then we'll start the tooling process probably tomorrow, maybe Wednesday. Depends on how the wax coats go. Typically, if I can get through the wax coats, I'll do it. I'll do them all in one day. And we can get serious and start making the mold. Once the mold is made, we can start making some cool chairs. We can start making parts. So this chair is a, let's call it a, I don't know, 1960s, 1970s era fiberglass chair. And I've made some mold flanges, kind of tuned it up, made it nice and straight. And the goal with this, there we go. The goal with this is to do carbon fiber versions. And fancy colors, so if somebody wants a purple one or a red one or a green one, whatever. If they haven't made this style chair for a number of years, and I want to do a modern take on a vintage chair. So we're literally calling this project Retro Chair with Modern Flair. And this is wax coat number 1. Like I said, we're going to end up putting probably 5 or 6 coats of wax on this, just to make sure it's really, really, really well waxed. The last thing that you want to have happen at this stage is to not wax it good enough and then have your part lock in the mold. That would be a very, very, very bad thing to have happen. And I've seen that happen a number of times. It's no fun. No fun at all. Then your mold's not good, your part's not good. So rule number 1 in composites, make sure your parts don't stick. And I will do a little bit of wet sanding and buffing on the mold itself once we get this popped off. There's still some very, very, very light sand scratches here and there I can see. And that's not a big deal. We're going to get a really nice shiny mold surface to start with. And it won't take that long to do a quick little wet sand and buff on the mold once we get it separated. already feeling slick. It's a good sign. I do not use automotive clear coat when I make these patterns and molds. Using this Duratec top coat is very, very, very crucial for the technique I'm doing here. Without PVA, you really want to use a composite safe tooling top coat. If you start trying to use an automotive finish, you will not have a good time taking that apart. It will stick. Almost guaranteed it will stick. Almost guaranteed. Give this just one more little quick wipe around the whole surface here. Make sure we're not missing any. That looks pretty good. You may need to switch buff rags a couple times when doing a large scale mold like this. Got one little scratch right there I don't like. That's all right. We'll have to fix it in the top coat. Yeah, I've got a few scratches here and there. Not a big deal. Not the end of the world. Not the end of the world. We do our best. Sometimes you have better parts than other parts. While I'm at it, we're gonna wax this little mold up too so I can make one of these parts tomorrow. This is kind of just a fun side quest that we're working on. Like I said, it's a not something for any sort of performance on the part. It's more of a just a cosmetic, look cool kind of piece. Since I do carbon fiber, you know, I can show my work off when I'm out and about and hanging out at the place that this is used. Someone's going to think it's cool. And again, we're going to get that wax off right away. No messing around. We don't want to let that wax set. It's kind of a tricky shape. There's a lot of very, very hard right angle corners, very sharp corners. It's not very curvy, so we'll just do the best we can. That's why we put 5 or 6 layers on, you know. That one's actually really difficult. You think the big ones are the more difficult ones, but sometimes these little smaller molds are just as tricky. There. Coat 1, wax on, wax off. I'm going to tape a quick little perimeter around this while I'm working on this here. I have a sneaky hunch that that's where my vacuum bag infusion stuff is going to go. So I want to try to keep the outside flange wax free. That way the gum tape sticks a little bit better. I've seen some guys that wax right over their flange. It works for some people. It does not work for everyone. So keep that in mind when you're doing mold work. You might want to tape your flanges. And I will go one step further here, and I'm going to scribe a quick line. I'm gonna scribe a quick line where that tape is. That way I know where my stopping point is for the waxing and buffing stage. So there we go. Got our flange all taped up here. I think I have a scratch awl, or at least I did a moment ago. It couldn't have gone far. I will just have to improvise, find another one. That's okay. And so for this, these are straight lines. I'm just gonna literally take a, no, here it is. On the floor, right where I left it. That's not long enough. Let's take, just take a right angle square here. Wham bam, thank you, ma'am. Everyone joining in, kind of sorry about the short delay here. We're doing some waxing and buffing on a mold right now, or a pattern for a mold. It's not quite a mold yet. I'm just letting the wax set for a few seconds here before we put on our second coat, so stay with me. This is a small little side quest mold that we're also prepping at the same time. Getting ready to run a carbon fiber part. So yeah, once I get this chair mold all waxed up and set to rock and roll, we're gonna start doing the mold process. I will be doing that live. And we're kind of gonna do stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, all that kind of fun jazz. Stage 1 will be putting our tooling surface down. Stage 2 will be starting to do our fiberglass work. And then stage 3 is just gonna be more fiberglass, more fiberglass, more fiberglass. So I may skip a little bit of that just to not duplicate videos, but I'll make sure that you guys can see what happens once we go to pop the part out and see how it comes apart once the mold work starts. There we go. So this is set for long enough now. Again, I am using TR high temp mold release. And we're going to do the exact same thing as I did the first time. We're going to start in the center. And we're just going to use circles, try to get all the surface area that we can possibly get. You don't want to miss anything. Luckily, this is a fairly easy shape compared to some of the more complicated projects I've done. So this goes pretty darn quick, actually. Reload on a little bit of wax. Again, this is a specific composite wax that we're using. This is not from an auto parts store. It's not from, a paint supply store. This is actually from a composite supply store. Shout out Express Composites if you guys are listening. Sorry, I don't have a banner in the background right now. I probably should do that. They've been a big help in my composite journeys over the years. Product knowledge and technical support and good quality resins and fiberglasses and carbon fibers. Okay, that side's nice and waxed. We'll do the same thing with this side. And again, we're going to do this 5 or 6 times, probably 6 times. I can basically put 5 coats on right away, and then I'll put another coat on tomorrow morning before we actually do our tooling work. Just in case we missed anything, but I follow the instructions on these wax cans pretty thoroughly. I don't go off the rails too far on them. You can cheat it a little bit if you really know what you're doing, but follow the instructions on the product. I know that's a really lame thing to say, like read the instructions and follow it, but that makes all the difference when it comes to composite products working or not working. So keep that in mind. If you rush through the stages, you're going to get bad results, or something's not going to work as designed. Which again is no fun. If your mold locks to the part you're making a pattern of, or if your pattern locks to the mold, you're not going to have a good day. So take your time doing the wax job. That looks pretty good, doesn't it? I would say so. Grab our fancy dancy microfiber. Some people prefer to use a terry towel, like a cotton terry towel. I don't have a problem with the microfibers, but some people do. So keep that in mind. The microfiber might be a little aggressive, depending on where you're getting your microfibers from. It's a lot of boot camp that goes into this kind of stuff. These are the kind of things that I like to do doing live, just so you guys can kind of see what the actual process is. Instead of doing a quick little, speed through, call it good, you can actually see how much elbow grease is going into each and every stage. A lot of the composite channels I see out there are kind of gatekeepers, where they'll show you 75% of the information and they'll leave out a really important 25%. I don't do that. I tend to be an open book for educational purposes when it comes to composite tooling. So if you guys are watching this far and you're still paying attention, if you got any questions, feel free to reach out, and I will answer the questions as best as I can. I've been doing composite fabrication for about 25 years now, so I've been around the block a time or two. And I have worked in some very, very, very fancy shops. I've worked in some not so fancy shops. Had really fancy equipment. We've had no equipment, and anyone can do this stuff. All it takes is a lot of motivation. This is coming off pretty easily. If I let this wax sit too long, like I said, it's gonna haze up, and it's gonna be very, very, very difficult to get off once it's fully cured. So don't wait too long. If you can't put it on and get it off in about 15 minutes, don't try. Let's just put it that way. Don't try. There'll be a lot of elbow grease if that wax dries too much. You don't get that nice shiny surface after you wipe the wax off, you've waited too long. Another thing I should mention